Welcome to Left at the Door. This is a podcast and vlog where we are a group of friends that bring together our experiences, the people and thought patterns that we left at the door in order to love and grow, succeed, and survive. These are our stories. I'm Cassie Yoder.
I'm Jessie Porter.
I'm Andrea McGee.
I'm Sarah Easter.
And this is Left at the Door.
So today we're going to talk to one of our co-hosts, Andrea McGee, about what she's left at the door.
So one of the things I left at the door was assumption. And for a viewer listener, they probably wanted to know where the accent come from. So I'm from Guyana, South America, and it's like north of Brazil. So Guyana was a third world country. And I came to the United States when I was 16 going on 17. One of the things I assumed before coming to the United States was that everything was perfect. And so I've had it all in my head, how it's like everything is like in a movie you see. And when I came, my assumption was not what I assumed it to be. It was different. I realized that I had to work really hard for it. And there's a lot of things that I realized culture-wise was different. And so that was really hard for me at the beginning.
Andrea, what do most people assume about you?
So most people assume about me my ethnicity. And what they don't understand is that I am not Hispanic. I'm not African American. I'm actually Indian, but West Indian, because my country is part of the Caribbean. Not only is it South American, but we're the only English-speaking country in South America, and we're more associated with the Caribbean than we are with America. And so a lot of people tend to assume that, oh, well, she's African American, she's Hispanic, and they don't just ask me this. And I feel like if people take the time to come up and ask me, I would be willing to tell them and educate them, hey, this is where I'm from. This is my nationality. And I'd rather them, instead of assume, just ask.
You know, I think, Andrea, one of the things I think about is you and I originally met when I was a professor at Richland Community College in Decatur, Illinois. And I was teaching marketing and you came into one of my classes. And I remember having you as a student, and it was like, it took a really, I don't know, maybe mid-semester before I think we even had the conversation about where you were from. And I think that it's something that I learned quickly on, that it's like, at the end of the day, we're all humans. And so to just assume instantaneously that maybe the minute that a conversation starts, that it starts with, okay, so what race are you? Or the assumption of, oh, you're really tan. So are you Hispanic? You know, like, I think it's a really weird way to start a friendship or a conversation or any relationship in general. Like, we would never do that. If I saw another Caucasian person, I wouldn't be like, oh, so you must be Irish, right? You know, it's just never how you would start a conversation. So I asked it like, there's probably ways that you've had to cope with these type of assumptions that have been made about you.
I have a friend from Guatemala. His parents immigrated here. And I also have a friend from Mexico, and his parents immigrated here. And I found that with both of those friendships, I let the friendship form first. I went to concerts with them because one of them was heavily in the music scene, and the other one I served with. And we built that relationship first. And like the one that's from Guatemala, I'm super close with him. And we've sat on his front porch until 2:00 in the morning, you know, talking about things that his family went through to get here. But it took a while into that friendship to get to that point, because I didn't just go up to him and be like, hey, where are you from? I was like, let's be friends. Let's have this close-knit relationship first and get to know each other as human beings first. And then I want to learn from you, and I want to learn about your culture, because I feel like it's important to recognize the human aspect first.
And I think a lot of people assume you by your skin color. So like Cassie mentioned, you're Caucasian, you're from Ireland. No, you can be. There is a lot of things that people don't understand. Just because someone's skin color is that doesn't mean they're actually from America or another country. Doesn't mean they're African American. Doesn't mean they're Hispanic. Doesn't mean they're Indian. There could be anything. I've had people who are Caucasian that are tanner than I am, but you're not going to go say, hey, where are you from? Because you're really tan. But no, I'm United States. I'm actually Caucasian. No, you're not. And that's a misconception that people have. Another thing they assume is your accent. So now my mother-in-law, Beverly, at work, she has an accent, but she's actually born in Decatur, Illinois, in the US. She's a US born. The thing is she has a speech impediment. She cannot pronounce her R. Mm-hmm. So now you have that accent. So you would never assume. People always tell her, no, you're not from Decatur, Illinois.
They just assume that she's from somewhere else. Yeah.
And the thing that surprised me the most is people are in denial. You're telling them, yes, I am. They're telling you, no, you're not. And that's the thing. It's like, I feel like a lot of people need, if you tell someone something, then you go with it. It is what it is.
That denial gets me every time because I had a roommate in college. Her grandma came here from North Korea, and her dad is white and her mom is Korean from her grandma. Mm-hmm. And she looks primarily white, but she does look Korean. But it takes her telling somebody to be like, oh, yeah, you do look Korean, you know? Right. And most of the time she gets the response, you're not Korean. And it's like, who are you to tell her where her grandma came from?
Yes.
Well, and when you start a conversation or a relationship with that tone, what you're telling the person that you're talking to is that this is what's important to me. The future of our relationship is going to depend on your answer to this. And that's why I would assume people of color or people with accents or people that look different get defensive about that because now we are approaching them and putting value on that instead of their humanness.
Right.
So this is doorstop, where things maybe got wedged in the door. They didn't get left behind. They didn't come all the way through. So it's stuff that we rediscuss. So we're talking a little bit with Andrea and her episode. Really, this overall thing is dealing with assumptions. And maybe in a lot of ways, you guys have some similar connections because your dad was an immigrant and the way that you grew up. Tell us a little bit about that because there is a lot of commonality, I feel like, between the two of you.
There is and there isn't. I can't imagine immigrating to a new country at the age that she did. Was she 17?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I was actually very, very small whenever we immigrated here. So my dad is actually from Zaire, which is the Democratic Republic of Congo. And he and my mom met both working at the Baha'i World Center in Haifa, Israel. Then they got married. Then they had me. And then we moved to France for a little bit. And then we moved here to America. So America is basically like all I've known for like just how I live. Right. But we've been lucky enough to travel.
That's what I was going to say, because you have family everywhere.
Everywhere.
So, that's really tough to be like, oh, I think I'm just going to go to France.
Yeah.
Go visit my aunt.
Yeah, people are like, you must have a lot of money. Ha! No, I have a great family who loves me very much.
Just go sleep on a couch.
Yeah,
exactly.
Literally.
So, one of the things I was thinking about is, and I don't know, I feel like in a lot of ways, some of the things that Andrea has brought up really come down to her perception of how maybe it's through books, maybe it's through television, or maybe just the stories of how people talk about America, that she really thought that it would be this like welcome with open arms. Yeah. It would be like white picket fences. But then it was kind of a harsh reality in a lot of ways, which was incredibly heartbreaking.
I think definitely the media paints the perfect picture of what America is. I think it's what America aspires to be. I think we're going about it not exactly in the correct way, but also in a way we are better in different aspects than a lot of countries, but we are worse than some other countries as well. But I think hopefully we can start moving in the right direction to make it exactly what we want America to be.
You know, I think you brought up a really good point, because I know, like, I have friends that are overseas, and they, through work, it has brought them over there. And they talk about where there is just, at any given restaurant, they'll sit down and it'll be someone from Switzerland and someone from Japan and someone, all these different people. And they're, you know, whether they're on holiday or whether everybody is just working because their jobs have brought them. But there is just such a variety of individuals. And I think that in many ways, we have the ability here in America to be more open-minded and to be more accepting, because there's so much that we can get and so much that we can learn from other countries and from other cultures.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's really important for people, no matter what your age, even if you're an adult, to, you know, even if you can't travel, if you meet someone who speaks a different language, or if you meet someone with a different culture, you know, be their friend, talk to them, learn something, like go get coffee, something, and just absorb all of this knowledge from different places, because it's intriguing, whether you agree with it or not, whether you want to live like that or not, that's okay. But hearing about it just really opens your eyes to how things really are.
Yeah. And I mean, ultimately it's like person first, put the person first.
Absolutely.
Before,
Always.
like, either the differences or the, oh, I noticed you have an accent,
right?
Or, oh my gosh, your skin color, so where are you from?
Yeah.
I think that is kind of the assumptions that she's talking about. Even in some of those experiences, like running into work, or people that maybe even another person assumed, oh, well, she is this, you know? And I feel like that probably, I know that it's not something that we as Caucasian people deal with. Like, we don't have somebody come up and be like, so are you from Ireland? Or are you from Switzerland? Like, that conversation never happens. It's just, oh, well, that's an American person.
I get, what are you, a lot. It's very consistent. I can't just be, you know, brown.
What's your response, though? Are you just like, I'm a human?
I ask what they mean, because I'm usually really thrown off by it, because they're like, what are you? Well, first of all, does it make me more attractive if I tell you that my dad wasn't from here and that I'm not just mixed or not just black? Because then we're going to have a problem. Because we've had that, you know, people, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but like colorism, where there is a stereotype of black girls not being beautiful, and the darker you are, the less desirable you are, which is bullshit, you know? And I saw a lot of that in high school, where, oh, she's just too dark. She'd be pretty if she was light skinned. And I just remember getting into arguments with people about that, because, I mean, honestly, how dare they,
just
you know?
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. So whenever,
hair is another thing. And
yes,
I've seen
hair.
On social media post about stuff like that too.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to like shed light on things.
Definitely.
That there is a lot of different varieties of not only skin color, and there's different shades, but there's also different hair types.
Yeah.
And that's another huge piece to that as well. That it's like, you're only pretty if there's, if A, then B, and then maybe this. Like, you know, and that's just not the way that's just not how humans are.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely, like, when people ask, what are you? I honestly never know how to answer. I prefer, like, you to just ask me, like, you know, where's your dad from?
What's your name?
Or your name is so interesting. What language is it? You know, stuff like that, as opposed to like, what are you? Like, I don't know, like, does it matter?
Yeah.
You know?
From a marketing firm perspective, I have a lot of clients that are Amish. And, you know, over the years, just being surrounded by that, like, it's just such second nature in so many ways. And I know that so many of them love talking about their culture, and they love talking about their traditions. And from a tourism standpoint, because that's primarily a lot of those businesses, you know, or their traffic, even if they're furniture makers or whatnot, many of the tourists come through and they kind of spend a couple days and then they go pick out furniture, go do some sightseeing. But long story short, in so many ways, I have one of the gentlemen that I'm really close to, and Joseph always says, you know, I can always tell when somebody's like staring at me. Like, they're thinking, they're wanting to ask a question. And I don't know, maybe it's the difference in he's a little bit older and him being a male. But so he goes, I usually just say, tell me what you're thinking. Like, what are you wanting to ask? You know? And he goes, I love being asked, why do you have a beard? You know, or why does my son, who's like 17, why does he not have a beard? You know?
Yeah, I hate to say this, but I think that is so different, because I think with a beard, you can control that. You can take it off.
Yeah.
You can not have one. You know, a skin color, you wake up every single day. That's what you are.
Yes.
And so you can't just one day decide not to, have a beard. You know, you can't decide one day to not be brown,
Yes.
you know.
And clothing's the same way. Well, I see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Where it's like those are things that are transitional. Those are things that can change. And, and I think that there's different reasoning behind all of those things.
Yes.
And so, but that is a really good point.
Yeah. And so, I think that he probably feels a little more okay with, what are you thinking? As opposed to if someone is staring at my friend who's Black and I see them, I am not going to say, what are you thinking? I'm going to watch and see if I can see on their face what they're thinking, because generally they're staring for a reason, and sometimes it's not a great one.
Sometimes it's not good to start those conversations. It's a little bit different. It's not a little bit. It's a very different environment in those types of situations.
I mean, I've been around like my friends who are Black, who are just beautiful, and people have come up and they've been like, is that your real hair? And I think that is so insulting because it goes with the stereotypes that are just kind of spread through media, spread through just everything. And so I think it is really important to kind of stand up for injustices or to injustices whenever you hear them or whenever they're talked around you.
So let me ask you this, Kabeji. Like, especially given the nature of you work in a school system, so you are constantly around little kids. Yeah. Like growing thoughts, big questions. But then I feel like in many ways you have such a broad group of friends. Like, why do you think that being inclusive and really, like, I guess in a lot of ways, it's like that saying, like, the more the merrier. Yeah. Like, why do you think that's important, though?
I know what it feels like to be alone. I know what it feels like for people to not want to be around you or not want to talk to you or to make fun of you. And it does not feel good. And I also know how it makes you feel like your life is worth nothing. And I never want anyone to ever feel like that. People have so much to offer and you just have to give them a chance. And, sometimes friendships don't work out, but you've had that time together. And I mean, I have a friend who we were best friends for 3 years, and she tells me all the time that I was the first person to ever talk to her in high school. No one would talk to her. No one would sit with her at lunch. And I one day just went over to her and told her to pick up her tray and come sit with me. And I think about that because I don't remember that, but she did. And, my mom and my dad always pushed to always love everybody and make sure everyone felt included. And so even though I don't remember it, I made a difference. And that feels really good to know I made a difference. And we were very close for 3 years. We had a falling out over something really stupid. Then we talked about it and we're fine again. But it's just interesting, Well,
I think what you're speaking to is kind of like that quote that talks about you may not remember what was said. Yeah. And you may not remember what was done to you, but you remember how you felt.
Absolutely.
And I think that Maya Angelou quote, which that's obviously not verbatim, but in general, it really is true though. Like you said, you don't remember saying those things to her, but you remember, she remembers how it felt to be included. Yeah. And I think that in a lot of ways, the way that the system is set up and the way that many people view immigrants or officially non-Americans is really kind of putting this wedge between all of our different cultures to the point that we're really missing out on so many things, from not just from an educational standpoint and learning about other people and how other people live and what they can bring to the richness that they can bring to our lives, but just from a fundamental human aspect.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think about how, I grew up in a small town, it has 5,000 people, predominantly Caucasian. But for Jack, he is in a different school system. And so he is and has been accustomed with so many different cultures. So for him, I think that it was just like that is normal for him. Yeah. We didn't get exposed to it till basically college. That was the first time that we started, hanging out and going to other people's houses. And, that person being like, oh, we're Jewish. We're doing this week. Or try this food. This is what my mom always made. And so that was such a unique experience, but I didn't get it till I was almost 18.
And you made that choice to be inclusive and accepting and to be open to new friendships, whether they were like you or not. And I think that's really important. And that's another thing that we have to think about is how you were raised. Because some people are raised that if someone's not like you cannot talk to them, you cannot be around them, nothing.
It's like different is scary.
Exactly. Yeah. But whenever you're an adult and you start to make those choices for yourself, I think it's really beautiful to see people who grew up in households like that to make their way out and see the world and realize that there's more than what they're used to.
Mm-hmm. It's so true.
Yeah.
So I think that this has really touched upon a lot of Andrea's points when it comes to the assumptions and like the different lifestyles. And we'll get back to the episode and you can see the rest of Andrea and her experiences with how she left assumption at the door.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'm the owner of Bad Love Creative Co. I'm a photographer that services both Central Illinois and Chicago areas. This year has been incredibly difficult for me. I've had lots of cancellations due to shutdown. Prairie Commons Business Collective has helped me bring awareness to my clients. The marketing has let people know that I'm still here and I'm taking clients. I'm taking social distancing measures, and that is how my photo shoots go. Prairie Commons Business Collective has really helped to get more clients and to reach new people. One of the things I love most about Prairie Commons Business Collective is that there's a place for everybody, which is something I value most. It's a community of people of all business types. So whether you're a crafter or a photographer like me, or even a furniture maker, there's a place for you.
May your day be filled with giggles. The place to come for cards and gifts. Personalized just for you. Come and try our tasty treats. They will leave you giggling too. Oh, the brightest spot on Merchant Street will leave you happy and complete. May your day be filled with giggles.
Shopping local is more than a trend. The big box stores have nothing on our craftsmanship, handcrafted Amish furniture, and custom cabinetry. If you can envision it, we can build it. Learn more at prairiecommonscollective.com.
And what viewers and listeners may not realize is that you're an American citizen. And that whole process, I'm sure that process in and of itself came with so many assumptions, either for you or for other people. Like, talk to us a little bit about that and what that was like going through.
So when I became an American citizen, first of all, like I said, I came to the United States when I was 16 going on to 17. And so I actually came on a student visa. And while I was studying, I met my ex-husband, Nathan, through a mutual friend. And we dated for a couple of years and decided to get married. So now the status of my visa changed. So I'm applying for my permanent resident card because I'm now married and a United States citizen. One of the biggest assumptions that people have is that when you automatically marry a United States citizen, you become one. But that's not the case. There's a process in this. And believe it or not, the process for applying for a green card is very difficult. It is a lot of paperwork involved. So with my status, I was fortunate enough that it wasn't as complex as some people have. Now, in the process, and I've heard stories about this, where immigration officer actually showed up at your door to make sure that you're marrying for legal reasons. And that wasn't the case for me, but they did, during the process, they did ask us both questions to make sure that we know each other, we're marrying for the right reason. And for our viewers and listeners who probably are looking or listening, no, I did not marry him for a green card. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions. And I will tell you this and why. So
that's the assumption.
That's the assumption, people. So technically, I came to the U.S. with some missionary people. They're my American family. They live in Monticello, Illinois. They're the Winders. And we know each other since I was a little girl. So I kind of grew up with them, and I came back to the United States.
Because they did missionary work,
and
right?
they did missionary work in Guyana for several years. And, we grew a bond. And technically, I'm the only child, but because of them, I have a sister, and a brother, but I'm more close to my sister than I am with my brother. And Danielle, she's just like any other blood sister, except we're technically not related. And that's what's great about this friendship, this relationship that her and I have. So I came on a student visa. Like I said earlier, I met my ex-husband, Nathan, and had applied because my status changed. So I applied for my green card. Later down, things didn't work out, obviously. That's why I said ex-husband. So I'm remarried, but I decided later that I'm going to apply for my natural citizenship.
When you realized that you were splitting up, what was the process at that point? Since your status changed when you got married, what happens when you get divorced?
So because I was divorced, nothing has changed with my status being a resident. It's still maintained the same because I still carry the same legal last name as is. I did not change that until I got remarried to Stephen, my now husband. However, there is a time period for your resident card. I don't remember how long it is, but I think it might be 5 years until it expires. You can choose to renew it, or you can choose to become a United States citizen. And one of the things for me in my personal experience is that becoming a naturalized citizenship, the paperwork was less stressful than the paperwork for the permanent resident. And here is why to that. With the permanent residence, you have to prove that you're wanting to become a resident of the United States. You have to have all these documents. I even joke about they need my blood work. What next? They need my DNA. Believe it or not, I did have to take blood work. Wow. I did have to get shots like your TB shot, tetanus shot. And there was a lot of paperwork given to them. So now by applying for citizenship, they still had that information. That's where a lot of people have the misconception about marrying a United States citizen. And again, I'm going to go back to this just a little bit because a lot of people assume that I married Nathan for a green card. Well, that's not the case. And I will tell you why. My grandma immigrated to the United States through my Uncle Michael. This was in the 80s. So my grandma was able to sponsor her children, and then her children, which is my mom, Barbara, she was able to sponsor me. But at that time, I'm already in the United States, and I already was able to maintain a status and get my permanent residence. So my mom, fortunately enough, did not sponsor me. But again, everybody assumed that I'm marrying an American citizen for my green card. But again, this is where the chain immigration came from. And I'm actually proud to say, and if our viewers or listeners are listening to this, I'm actually proud of this because a lot of people have misconception of chain immigration. A lot of people don't understand it. At one point, we were all immigrants, somewhere or another. Our ancestors settled here in the United States, and that's how come immigration began. We start migrating, we start bringing our families and our friends over to the United States. Another thing I wanted to mention is that currently we do have an immigrant in the United States, the White House. We do have an immigrant in the White House, and that's our First Lady. And she too did chain immigration, and a lot of people do not realize this. And I think it's great to point this out because currently it's a big issue in the United States of America, and people are not understanding when you start saying something, you need to look in the mirror, you need to look at the picture, and you need to think before you say something. Because like our First Lady, she's an immigrant, she did chain immigration, but yet you're trying to deny. And that's not a good message we're sending.
You know, I think that one of the things I was thinking about is sometimes people that are ignorant will say things like, well, it's just so easy to become an American citizen. You know, you get yourself over here and they'll let anybody become an American citizen. But I'd go back to what you said. And it's like, ultimately, we are all immigrants. It was really interesting because we did 23andMe. And so we knew that we had the Irish and we knew that we had Scottish, but then we started learning about other, ancestors in different locations that we migrated from and had family from. So I do think it is very interesting because you have put so much information out there that there's this assumption that it's like, you just raise your hand, you're like, oh, I would like to become an American citizen. And they're like, oh, well, here. And it's not that case. It was really trying for you to do.
It is. And a lot of people don't understand there is a fee involved. If you take the test and you fail it, you do have to retake that test. You do have to pay that fee all over again. So there is, I'm laughing, but I'm actually being serious about this. There is a lot. So for those people who are not able to pass that test, it is kind of heartbreaking to see that because of all that work, effort that is involved in the process. It's not as a piece of cake that you put on the table and, oh, here you go. It's all for you. It's nothing like that. So when it comes to immigration process, a lot of people are not educated on the system. And I feel that it's unfortunate for those people because I feel like if you're going to make assumption on a person and their immigrant status, maybe you ought to take the time to look into what is it to become a United States? What's involved in this? Why is it? It is not that easy and simple as people assume it is.
So where could we get more information about becoming a citizen?
So the process to get more information to become a U.S. citizen, you can go on their website, the USCIS.gov for viewers or listeners out there. You may know somebody or yourself may need that information. I recommend going, make sure you do research. And if you need to get a lawyer, I recommend doing so.
This has all been really good information because I think that your process and going through all of this, I know that there's viewers that have never, really even had maybe somebody in their life that they could ask these questions to. If you have the type of community that maybe everybody looks like you and everybody, you don't have these type of experiences. And sometimes it takes college or work to start meeting other people. So I think that it's really great for you to bring this to everybody's attention that it's something that you left at the door, assumptions, and that I think it's something that we can all learn from, of leaving those assumptions at the door of people who don't look like us and don't sound like us. And I think it's just been really great information for everybody. Thanks for sharing your story with us,
Thank
Andrea.
you.
Yeah. If you want more information on Andrea or also about the process that she talked about of becoming a U.S. citizen, we've got some of that information for you. You can find more information on Left at the Door on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to see our cute little faces, you can always tune into the YouTube channel and you can watch us there. So thank you for watching. This has been Left at the Door.